leave that open just a little. Can come in if they. I'm sure we'll have a few. All right, well, let's get started. Glad to have you. Actually, we're going to record it available on the internet for refresher, or for those that aren't able to make it into some of the. I'll try not to make it too stilted from that point of view. The reason the program here yet is because what I have found in the past is that when I've dealt with questions and problems regarding people's using of Relay, what I have found is most of the time it really wasn't a question of Relay, but it was a question of Relay in some ways had made the mistake of giving you too many ways to put files into Relay. And so you could fax them in, or you could email them in, or you could upload them from your computer. myTransactions is much simpler than that. You can only upload them from your computer. Okay? There is no fax option. There is no email option. You need to create PDF documents, save them on your computer, and you will upload them to myTransactions from the computer. So for those that just need a quick refresher in just file management, the key is under My Documents, create a file for myTransactions, and then within that file of myTransactions, create a file for the property that you are about to start working with. Okay, so if you're taking a listing, if you're writing an offer, you're going to create a file. You're going to create a holding spot in your My Documents folders so that you have a place to put the documents that you upload. And thanks to Mike Proet, I got the hint that when you're labeling these files, you want to put the street name first and then the numbers. So then after you're wildly successful and you have 150 of these things, they show up in alphabetical order rather than in numerical order. Okay, where you just have to randomly search. So the first step before you get into anything with myTransactions is simply create a file folder on your computer so that you have a place to place your documents. From that point, you can either use a home scanner to scan and create a PDF, or you can use the printers that we have here. You can scan your documents here. They will send them as a PDF file to your email. And at that point, save them from your email to the file that you've created. It's going to have a random Toshiba name on it, so that isn't going to make any sense to you at that point. But again, simple file management. If you want to change the name of a file, you right-click on it, come on down here, hit Rename, and then you can type in a new name for the file. And at that point, you're going to put in something that is going to give you the reminder as to what the content of that file is. For my purposes, as far as myTransactions is concerned, it doesn't make a bit of difference what you name the file here on your computer, because I will never see that title. The only thing I will see is when you label it in myTransactions. Okay, so all you need to do here is label it in a way that you can remember what's in that file so that you know you're uploading the proper files. Okay, but you don't have to worry about my L1 or P1 system at this point in the game. That's only for when you're uploading myTransactions. So simple file management. First step in creating any transaction. Create a file on your computer, scan your documents, load them onto that, put them in that file, and then when you go to loading from myTransactions, you'll simply, when it goes to browse, you'll find that file and you'll upload the documents that you have there. Okay, so that's just basic file management, and again, with myTransactions, this is going to be the only way you can put them in. That fax option is not going to exist. So your documents have to be done in PDF format, and they have to be saved on your computer and uploaded from there. The next step on it is obviously not all documents automatically come as PDFs. Okay? Leonella has been very careful with all the agents that she's met with over the last several months to make sure that everybody has a PDF converter of some kind on their computer, okay? Which is a program that is able to take other file documents, other file types, and convert them into PDF files. Okay, so if you've had her set you up with one of those, great. Otherwise, let me give you a couple of suggestions of programs you can go to. There's one, it's a free program. It's called DOPDF, dopdf.com. And what DOPDF, free download, it will create a printer driver on your computer so that when you want to take a Word document and make a PDF out of it, you simply go to print, change the printer to DOPDF, and then follow the steps from that point. And you can then save that Word document as a PDF file on your computer. Okay, so DOPDF is a free program. I discovered one that cost me a whopping $19.99, and it's called PDFill, PDFILL. And again, it's just pdfill.com. For $19.99, I was able to download that program. It's even a simpler conversion process because it just puts a PDF on your toolbar. And if you're working with a Word document or an email and you want to make it into a PDF, you simply hit PDF on your toolbar and then save it to the right spot. So it's simple that way. PDFill also has some other tools that are, it's sort of a miniature version of Adobe Acrobat. So it allows you to write on PDF documents. It allows you to create fillable PDF documents. It allows you to take a large PDF document and split it into smaller pieces, or to take a bunch of small PDF documents and combine them into one piece. So those are all things that you can do with PDFill. I don't get any commission out of it, just $19.99, as a download. So whichever program you're using, you're going to need to have a PDF converter on your computer so that in those situations where you do have other documents. An example, we're still going to have you submit your green sheet to Karina in her Excel file. But that Excel file will need to be converted to PDF to upload to myTransactions. Okay, you will not be able to directly upload an Excel file. Okay. So you need some type of a converter, and they're out there. There are several free ones. DOPDF is just one that I'm most familiar with. PDFill is a pretty versatile program for not much money. Okay. So the next step is, how do we get into myTransactions? The design for myTransactions is like it's the last piece of the eEdge program that Keller Williams is developing for agents. The idea is to get rid of so many different programs that you're using, and where each one you have to have a different password, you have to have a different username, and you're constantly going out of one program and into another. The eEdge program is designed to be as comprehensive as possible with a single login. Okay. So where you're going to go is kw.com. And you're going to log in with your username and password for kw.com. And that will take you to your myKW homepage. Okay, so your whole Keller Williams world is here on this homepage, and this is all of your eEdge information is right here on your eEdge toolbar. Your lead generation information here, your marketing programs, your contact database, access to your Keller Williams email, and now up here as the final piece of it will be the myTransactions dashboard. Okay. Now, most of you were automatically had myTransactions automatically made available to you. Okay, so one day you didn't have it, and the next day you logged into kw.com and you had the little green circle up there with the $sign in it, and you could go into myTransactions. That's for most of you. About 30 or 40 of you didn't get into that automatic list because they used an old list. Okay, for those 30 or 40, if this is still showing up with just a blue Join Now button up here, then you have to go through a couple of steps to get yourself registered onto myTransactions. So you're going to hit the blue button they have there. It's going to take you to a screen, and the temptation is going to be to put in your KW username and password. Resist that temptation. Okay, that's not going to work for you. The other option is Join Now. Okay, so when you get into that button, it's going to give you two options. You want to hit Join Now, and then it'll take you to a screen to put in your first name, your last name, your email address, and at that point, you're going to have to do one little extra step. You're going to have to hit a little thing that says retrieve password. They're going to send you a random password. You're going to plug that password in for your registration, and then I'll show you here in a couple of minutes how to go in and change that password to make it something that you want. And that password is not something you need to log into the program. That password that you'll create for .loop is only to be used if you need to use this program or choose to use this program for e-signatures. It will be your final verification on your e-signatures. But you won't need that password to get into the program. You'll be doing that through kw.com. The retrieve password thing is also going to be necessary for those that were automatically registered, because again, in order to get everybody in there without calling you up and asking you what you want to have for a password, everybody was assigned a random password. So you're going to want to go in, and we'll show you here in a couple of minutes how to go in and retrieve that password and get it changed to something that you'll actually know and remember. Okay.
So Steve, you need to register to get that one.
Yeah, you have to have e-edge activated,
Okay.
certainly, and then myTransactions is going to be right here on the same toolbar with e-edge. Okay, so once you're here, you've got the message center, and then what it says, show options. When you hit show options, it gives you some shortcuts. If you want to just jump right in and start a transaction, you can do so from there. If you want to jump to find buying. Now, here they've got it set up in transactions, but you're going to hear this word loop many times. Okay, the company that's powering myTransactions is called .loop. Okay, so in order to justify their name, the transactions within their systems are called loops. Okay, so we're going to have listing loops, we're going to have buying loops, and we're going to have offer loops. Those are the three loops that will be created within this program. So when you see or hear the word loop, we're talking about a transaction that we're creating. Okay. For most of you, what you want to do when you hit the options, you're going to hit Transaction Home as your first step. This is the myTransactions home page. Now, I've been playing with this thing for a few months, and I've been creating artificial transactions to figure out how they all work, and so mine's fairly well populated. What you're going to find from this page is this becomes the center point. You have full access to your myKW toolbar still across the top. You have full access to your e-edge toolbar. And now you have a new myTransactions toolbar. Okay. The other pieces on this page. Down here will be shortcuts to the last 7 or 8 loops that you've worked on. Okay, so that if you've been working on, you've just created, now you're going back in to add some more documents on that. This is a shortcut to those loops, to the page you need to go to add the documents. Okay. You've got a new calendar. Of course, none of you have enough calendars in your life. Okay, so they decided to add another calendar. How you use this calendar is totally up to you. My recommendation is simply use this calendar to track events that are taking place within the transactions that you're creating. And if you've got a purchase agreement going, you could put a note in here as to when your contingency period is up, when the close of escrow is going to be. Okay, and what it'll do is it will send you message reminders as those events come up. Okay, so it's just a way to help you track some of the things that are going on within there. If you want to track your sister's birthday with this, you can do that as well, and it'll send you a message that way. But most of you already have other calendars that are doing that for you. So my recommendation, if you use this calendar at all, use it as a task calendar for tasks that are related to your transactions you're creating. The activity log over here is simply going to have a notation for everything that you have done in this program. Okay, and the last 20 or so of them will show up there. If you want to show more, go back as to when you added documents, when you created a particular loop. All of the history of your events are going to be kept there. Okay, from the toolbar, Agent Home will show up at the top. Anytime you get lost, you can always go home. Okay. So if you're within the program here, anytime you want to navigate and kind of move on to something else, if you're not sure how to go from one to the other, you can always go home and then find your way from there, right? Buying loops, this would be the way to identify, after you've got several things going, if you hit buying loops, it's going to give you a list of all of the buying loops that you have created. Listing loops is going to give you a list of all of the listing loops that you have created. Okay. Clients, this is going to be any clients that you have attached to a specific transaction. This is not going to bring up your eEdge client list. In order to do that, you're going to have to go up here to your contacts. Okay. Message center, any internal messages are going to show up there. And then you have my account, and we'll go there in just a moment. The other options you have down below, create a loop. Now, this is a program that wants you to create loops. If you don't believe me, take a look at this page. How do I start a loop? Well, I can hit create loop here, or I can hit create loop over here, or I can hit create loop here, or if I want to, I can hit create loop over here. Okay, so my basic step is if you cannot figure out, you can also go to either one of these and create a loop, okay, or you can create a loop from that opening page. Okay, so if any of you are not sure what the first step in creating a loop is, then get a TC. Okay, because this is beyond you if you can't find one of those 7 or 8 places where it allows you to start creating your loops, right? Okay, so the options of how to get into and how to get one started, those are pretty straightforward. The next one here is my documents. This will be an important feature for you. Okay, and again, the idea is to eliminate how many different places you have to go in order to get the things together. Okay. The original design of .loop, let me stop and state this, because you're going to see there's some pieces of this program that aren't working right now. The design of .loop, again, was that it would essentially take the place of not only Relay, in our case, but that it would also take the place of zip forms. And that it would also replace DocuSign or Digital Ink. Okay, all of those features were designed as part of this program. In 47 states, those features are all working. Okay.
Let's see, which state isn't it working?
One of the states in which that's not working is the state of California. Okay, and California did not allow .loop to have access to the proprietary CAR forms. Okay, they are sticking with their exclusive agreement with zip forms in that regard. But the design of this program would have been you could go in here and start your transaction here rather than in zip forms. Okay, so that's the idea. All of the blank forms would be there. You could add those in just like we do in zip forms, fill them out here, and then just move them, where we need them to be. They're going to be working on that. Although the note that came out from CAR last week that said in no way, shape, or form are you allowed to copy these forms in any manner, I have a feeling that was aimed at us. Okay, so don't hold your breath on that. There's going to be some pieces of this program we're going to have to work around. But I want you to understand that's their intention. And in 47 states, that's working. The agents have a single login and they can do the transaction from beginning to end right through there.
Why do they care?
Well, it comes down to copyright laws and being assured that nobody will change the wording that they have so carefully made. Although just this last week when they came up with some of their form revisions, I immediately sent them notes for 2 or 3 different things that were mistakes on the forms that they made.
If you were not you could still be a Keller Williams agent and not be a member of CAR, couldn't you? Technically?
Technically, yes.
And then you could use the CAR forms.
Yes.
Without being a member.
And that's another, that's another consideration I'm sure they have. And so for right now, we still will need to start our transactions with zip forms. You're going to create your major documents. So for most of you, this program is only going to be used to upload your executed documents. But there are features here. If you want to use it for e-signatures, it has that capability. If you want to give your clients access to be able to see their documents online, you have that capability just like you've had with Relay. But with Relay, out of 120 or 30 agents that we have using Relay, about 2 of you have used it to allow your clients access. So I'm guessing that's not a real, that's not a feature that everybody's really looking for. but it's there. Okay? But under my documents, up to this point, if you needed to find our Keller Williams forms, you had to either come in here and get it in paper, or you had to go to our Market Center website and print them out, and then you had to handwrite, filling in the information on that. Now you can go to My Documents from the myTransactions homepage, and then click on Broker Documents. Okay. From that page, all of our contract forms are in there, the addendum, the affiliated business disclosure, the LA area advisory, lease money disposition, and my proposal to lease, and they're all there, and they are fillable. Okay, so that if you want to go to one of those forms, now you can go ahead and type in that form, fill out the address information, fill in the date information, type it all up, and then because you will have your PDF converter on your computer, you can save that document as a PDF on your computer. If you don't have a PDF computer, you'll only be allowed to print it. You won't be allowed to save it. Okay, so all of those KW documents are there. They will be continually updated as I change them. We'll update them on the program. So that'll be your source for those. Beyond that, the file checklists are there. Now, I noticed just this morning, somewhere late on Friday, .loop has added a checklist feature into myTransactions. It's something that I have to build the checklist. I have no clue at this point how it's going to work or how interactive it's going to be. So that's something we'll let you know as I put that together. But we will have some type of a checklist built into the program, I think, where I'll be able to mark off and you'll be able to pull up a checklist and see exactly where you are as far as completing the transaction. So that's something that's just brand new. But the paper versions of the file checklists are there. Agent information has the advisories that I've written for agents, the short sale advisory, the REO advisory, those types of information that I've made that are strictly from the broker to the agents to help give you some guidance in your transactions. Escrow information, we put in here a lot of those flyers that Kathy talks about on Wednesday mornings, and your escrow opening sheet, fee schedules, explanation of loan tie-in, estimate requests, those things are all there under the escrow file. For commercial, we've got commercial checklists there. And then myTrans information at the bottom, this is one you may want to look at. The first one here is this first page of the handout that I've given you. You notice what I've tried to do is I've tried to keep this as similar as possible to the way we've been using Relay. Okay, so the flow of the transaction, how you're going to upload your documents, how you're going to group your documents, how you're going to label your documents, I've kept virtually the same as what we've had in Relay. Okay, and so anytime you want to find out and get a reminder as to what the reasonable, how to label these things, how to group these things, that page is there. The next one, the intro guide, what I have done is I've taken a 40-page document that's put out by .loop that explains how to use myTransactions. But because this has their complete program with their interactive files that we don't have, I've gone through and I have made notes and annotations and circles and arrows and all the fun stuff that you need to say, here's how we're actually going to use this thing. Okay, so your guidebook to how to use myTransactions is in the file. You can pull that up at any time. The red, anything that's in red are my notes, and I've crossed out the pages that don't apply to you that you don't have to worry about, which is about not two-thirds, about a little between a third and a half of the pages. Okay, so it'll kind of give you a walkthrough on that. So rather than spending my time going through all this, I'm just going to make sure that you're aware of that. At any time you want to kind of review some of the things we've talked about today, that's always there for you. Okay, so all of that is under the My Documents tab, and again, you hit My Documents and then hit Broker Documents. All those files are available to you. Blank forms, basic loops, forms loops, ignore those, they don't apply to us. One of the things you will find as far as the language of .loop, a form means they're interactive forms that we do not have. So for our purposes, there are no forms. Everything that we do will be by attachments. Okay, so anytime it tells you to do something with forms, just skip that page. Okay, we're not doing any forms, we only do attachments as far as their program is concerned. Okay, one final step before we get into creating a transaction. You want to go to My Account. On My Account, it's going to have your name, your office information, your username, email address, password, how you want your e-signatures to appear. Okay. The first step, if you are pre-registered in this program, the first thing you want to do is go to My Account, click on Retrieve Password. It will send you an email with their random password that they've assigned. From there, you can go up here to Change Password. It's going to ask you to put in your existing one and then put in the one that you want. And then you'll have a password that you can actually remember. Okay. But again, you don't have to have this password to get into the program. This password will only be used if you choose to use the program to e-sign your documents. And the reason you want to take care of this early, even though you don't expect to do that, is because one day you're going to decide, hey, I think I'm going to play with this thing. And you're going to go through the whole process of setting up a document, putting in the signature and the initial tabs, going through and initialing and signing everything, and you're going to get to the very last step, and it's going to say, now give us your password. And if you haven't taken this step, you will not know what that password is, and you have just wasted the whole process. So go ahead and retrieve it, set up your own password as one of the first steps when you're into this program. And then if you never use this for e-signatures, you will never have to use that password. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to see that these friendly folks are really heavy into communications. Okay, so what they've got a list here of different things that may happen on your transaction. Some of these have to do with if you're using it for interaction with your clients, if you're using it for e-signatures, notification as to when signatures have been added and when documents have been returned. But the ones that are most common are going to be if I've attached something to the documents when I'm reviewing it. Okay, whether I have changed the status, whether I've added a note, whether I've added a label to the program. Now, it's going to automatically have all of these boxes checked for you. And if you do not immediately go in and uncheck those boxes, it will drive you nuts. Okay. I have asked them to make a change for us. I'm hoping that we will get this accomplished. But the way this program is set up right now, unless you uncheck these things, every time I add a note to one of your documents, it's going to send you an email. Every time I change the status on one of your documents, it will send you an email. Every time I change the status on the overall transaction, it will send you an email. So as an example, let's say you've loaded up 8 files and you've submitted it for review. I've gone through and I've reviewed them all and I've changed all 8 to approved and I've approved your file. You will get 9 emails telling you that I've been there, unless you uncheck these things. If you uncheck these things, then those 9 things will show up as a message on your dashboard, and then you can sort through and figure out what applies and what doesn't and delete what you need to. Okay. Now, if you want to, this is set up, some of these things, if you want to get notification. Now, if you're going to be in eEdge on a regular basis, if you're regularly on myKW, then the message center is going to work beautifully for you. Because it'll have a number. If there's a number in the message center, it means something's happened. You need to take a look at it and take an action. If you're only occasionally in the system, then you're probably going to want to go ahead and at least have something like compliance status changed marked so that it does send you an email that says, hey, it's time for me to get back in there and take a look at my transaction. Because Steve's done with his review and now he sent me his response to it. Okay, so you can select, if you're not going to be in the program very often, you probably do want to select a couple of these things so that you get some reminder. But otherwise, if you're going to be daily onto myKW, then just rely on the message center. Okay. If you're going to be working as a team, you're going to want to hit My Team and add the other agent from your team onto that. and then that agent will have access to any loops that you create. If you want to have access to any loops that agent creates, then that agent has to add you as a team member on their myTransactions. Okay.
So if I were traveling and I had somebody covering for me, I would add that person on so that they could follow up.
Exactly. Either that or, you know, I don't know, hopefully this doesn't get back to .loop, but you could give them your username and password. Somebody mumbled that. I'm not sure who said that.
It was me, it's on tape.
Okay. Okay, now the one, creating a buying loop is pretty straightforward. Creating a listing loop is pretty straightforward. Okay, if you're taking a listing, you're representing the seller, you're going to put all of your listing documents. Now some of you are wondering, why am I not following my papers I gave you? Because most of these are common sense. There's, you know, the listing checklist. Okay, so these are the documents that are going to go into a listing loop. Okay, you've got a purchase checklist. Purchase checklist, those things are going to go into either a buying loop, if you're representing the buyer, or they will go into an offer loop if it is a purchase that's going on one of your listings. Now this is one of the things that's unique about this program compared to Relay. We have a few times in Relay where, because all of the documents are in the same file, you get 2-3 weeks into a transaction and the buyer walks. And now you've got all these files that apply to that transaction mixed in with your listing files, and you have to go in and change the names on them or code them in some way so we can try to distinguish one from the other. In this case, the purchase documents are going to be kept in a separate file from the listing documents, but because it's set up as an offer loop, it will be attached to the offer, or to the listing loop. And if that buyer walks, we can archive that offer loop and we can create a new offer loop, and it's not going to be mixed in with our listing documents. Okay, so it won't affect that file. It's easy, if you want to create when you hit create loop, it's going to give the option, listing loop or buying loop. I have asked them to make it that easy to create an offer loop. Okay, the most logical thing is with the summary page on your listing to be able to hit it. Right now that doesn't exist. So pay very careful attention to this, because this is the #1 error that I've had with agents that are already working with this program. If you take the shortcut to your listing page, you will not be able to create an offer loop. You have to go the long way. The long way is to come to the top toolbar, hit listing loops, and then when it gives you the list of listings, the listing that you want to attach an offer to, you'll click on that, and from that page it gives you the option of creating an offer loop. Okay, so this is the way you would normally, you got 2 different ways to get to your listings. You can go through the toolbar, or you can hit the shortcut. If you hit the shortcut, it bypasses this step and it takes you to the listing loop summary. And you're going to looking around and saying, well, what do I do? Where do I put an offer? You don't want to create a buying loop for the offer, because then it will not be associated with your listing. Okay, so to create the offer loop, hit the listing loops tab on the toolbar, click on the listing that you want to attach an offer to, and then it'll give you the create offer loop option. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a loop. See here, which tab do I want to use? Okay, let's use this one for now. I create a loop. Now I've got the option. Well, I want it to be a listing loop or a buying loop. Okay. Well, let's do a listing loop. I'm going to put in my address. I've been making up these things every week, so let's call this Example Highway. That sound good? Okay, put in my address, hit continue. Now what it's going to do is going to take me to a step that I cannot go around yet. I've asked them to figure out a way to get us around it. But you notice what it says, add forms. What's the problem? We don't have any forms. Okay, this is the step similar to when you create a transaction in zip forms. The first thing you do is you add the forms that you're going to use in that transaction. That's what this step is designed for. We don't have it. So down at the bottom of this page, you have a button that says skip. You just simply skip that page. Okay. The next step is another one that I wish they would give us a bypass to, but they don't. It's the add clients. You have the option at this point, and let me emphasize, it is an option. It is not mandatory. But you have an option of adding in your clients. They may be clients that are already in your database. Okay? But if you want to add clients here, each client has to have a unique individual email address. So if you've got Ma Kettle, Ma Kettle and Pa Kettle, each one of them has to have their own email address in order to put them both in here. Because the email address in dotloop is designed to be kind of like the final fingerprint on their e-signatures. Okay?
Okay, so there has to be a uniquely different email address?
Yes. Yeah. Ma and Pa Kettle cannot use the same email address for e-signatures. Okay? Most of you, frankly, let me give an analogy. We have had Digital Ink available as a free service to you for a year now. I've seen about 2 agents use it. Those that are using digital signatures are still paying for DocuSign because they're familiar with it, because they trust it, they know how to use it, they know how their client's going to interact with it. My guess is even though this is another option to you as far as free digital signatures, those of you who are using digital signatures are probably still going to use DocuSign. Okay? But this is just an option for you. Now here's the key. 2 reasons why you would want to put a client into this program. 1, if you're going to use it for e-signatures, and 2 is if you're going to give client access to their files on the internet. To give them a login, allow them to come in here, then they would have to be here. If you don't intend to do either of those 2 things, you don't have to add a client. Now I have asked the company to give us another skip button. They haven't done that yet. But the reality is you can skip this stage. All you have to do is come up here and click on Listing Loop Summary. And now it's going to take you to the page where you can add documents to your listing loop. You'll notice over here we have no clients added. If you want to add clients later, you can just simply say Add Client. So if somewhere along the line you decide, you know what, I've got a couple of pages that I really do want to use this program for e-signatures, you can add the client then. Okay. So even though they don't have a skip button on that Add Client page, just go on to Listing Loop Summary and you're all set. You don't have to add a client there. Don't get stuck. It's also going to say Invite Agent. Okay. If you want to add another agent on here, if you've got a team, both agents are going to show up already. My recommendation, when you go to the buying side, it's going to ask you, to give you an opportunity of inviting the buying agent into this thing. Do not do that. Okay? I really, frankly, I want them to be responsible for their side. I don't want to have buying side, or the other agent interaction into this program at this point. Okay? So when it says invite another agent, just skip that. Don't worry about that.
Can you invite as a copy only?
I don't know the answer to that one, Mike. The question is, can we put them in so that they can simply receive a copy?
For example, in DocuSign, if you're the other agent, I may have my client sign, I'll sign, and I put you down in 3rd position to receive the copy so that it's all done.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, so from here, notice they've got this checklist feature. I don't know yet how that's going to function, so stay tuned on that one. Once I get my checklist created and play with it, we'll give you some information there. First up here it says Forms. There's no forms in there because we don't have any forms. Everything you do is going to be put in by attachment. And it is an extremely simple process. You hit Add Attachment, and then you hit Browse. Now, like anything, it's just like on your email. It's going to take you back to the last place that you uploaded a document from. So if that's where you want to be, cool. If it's not, just navigate by using your file tools to get to the file that you want to use to upload a document. One of the cool things about this one is just how simple it is. Double click on the document. Now you want to give it the name. This is the name that matters to me. Listing docs are going to be L. Purchase docs, we got P1, we got P2, P3, by the checklist. If you're doing a lease, by the way, I've changed the checklist so that we can differentiate buying or the offer loop from the listing loop. Okay? If you're representing just the tenant, you're only going to use this side. If you're representing the landlord, you're going to have this side in your listing loop, and then the additional forms over here in your offer loop. Okay? But at this point, let's say I've got L1, and let's say that's my MLS and my profile. If we were doing this in Relay, we would have to save that, and then we'd have to start the process all over again. Look at this. Add another one. Now I can go back, add the next one. Give it the label. I can do that as many times as I want. Okay, so if you're in your, you've gathered up your P1 documents and you've got 7 or 8, you can just go ahead and pile them all on. And then once you've got all the documents you want to upload, you hit save and continue. And that's going to take you through another frivolous step. I apologize for this, it's just the way it is. They're assuming you're going to want to use this for e-signatures. You don't have to. If you are going to use it, if you're uploading forms that are ready for signatures, you can use it here, or you can skip. Anytime you add attachments, it's going to give you that option. You can skip that option. You can always go back and add e-signatures later if you choose to. Now those documents are in your program.
So if we want to, because I'm just a little clueless on this, so say we want to do like an e-signature thing, which I don't know if there's a fee to do that or not.
No.
There's not. So we could essentially take blank card documents, scan them in, and then send them over to our clients to sign.
Yeah, not blank ones, but unsigned ones. You can
everything else is
you would
done,
save your card document as a PDF. You could upload that, and you could use this then for signatures if you wanted to do that.
Okay.
Have
But
you-
everything else has to be filled out?
I just wondered, on this one, unlike Digital Ink, this one is an autofill, though we would need to locate each signature on each
Yes.
page,
Yes.
which is like what it used to be like.
Yeah. You would have to set it up to where you would do a drop down and drag down and drop wherever they need to put initials, wherever they need to put signatures. You'd have to prepare the document for that for them. Yes. Okay. So at this point, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the e-signature part of it because, again, most of you aren't going to do it. Those that you can, the tutorial is there and available on how to use that portion of it. Okay. But you've got your documents here. If I want to change the name of the document, or if I'm using it for client access, if I hit edit, any clients that have been put in here, I can mark whether or not they're going to have visibility of those documents. Okay. Or I can go ahead and change my name. If I want to set it up for e-signatures, I would hit modify. And then it'll bring up the page to do signatures on it. Okay. So I don't need to, that's just, the edit option is always there for you. Okay. Well, so the concept is simply this. When all of your initial listing documents, your listing package, the first column of the listing checklist are done, you're going to submit it for review. I'm going to take a look at that, and I'll show you the broker side here in just a minute. When I'm done with it, I'm going to send it back to you with notes. And the notes will give you either it's approved or corrections are needed, and here's a note as to what corrections are needed. What we're eliminating is all of the emails back and forth. Because the way we've been functioning with Relay is I go through your file, then I have to go out and create an email to tell you what needs to be done. This way, the notes as to what needs to be done to the file will be within the file. Okay, so when you go in there, you will be able to identify what's necessary, what's lacking, what needs to be added, all within that file. It won't be on separate documents. Okay, so communication, once we get used to it, I think is going to be very healthy. Here's one of those things that tells you that this is a program created by agents for agents. Because try to find submit for review on this page. You notice they gave me about 8 different ways to create a loop. Okay. Submit for review is under additional options. Another change I've asked for is that they put a prominent submit for review button on this page. But to submit for review, you hit the pull down arrow over here. Right now, the green sheet function within .loop does not work. Okay, so ignore the green sheet function in this system. You'll still submit your green sheet to Karina like we've been doing, and then upload a PDF version of it here. But under submit for review, that's where you're going to go to submit this. Okay.
And that was under multiple options.
So right here, right above right here, it says additional options available. Do the pull down menu and then hit submit for review.
Do you do submit for review after everything is in it, or
Okay.
in
After each section. Okay, so when your listing document package, that first column is done, submit for review. When your P1 section is done, submit for review. When the P2 section is done, submit for review. Okay. I don't want to have to go in and every time and just kind of randomly search your files to see what's in there. So your responsibility is to communicate to me when a group of documents is ready to look at. Okay. So that way, ultimately, my goal is I'm going to touch each file 4 times. I'll review the listing file. The initial purchase P1 should be in a week after you open. And when you get the escrow instructions and the prelim, you should have a complete package of P1. Now, if it's a short sale, it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to put everything you can in, and I'll probably review that one twice. Once with the initial offer, and then second after we get the short sale lender's approval and we get escrow open and all that sort of stuff. I don't want you to wait until you get short sale approval before you put your documents in. Because a lot of times questions come up on these contracts long before we get short sale approval, and I look pretty foolish if I can't find those documents. Okay. Any executed contract, I need to have a copy available to me through myTransactions. All right. So P1, a week after you open. P2, the end of your contingency period. So basically about 3 weeks into the program, I should have all of your P1 and P2 documents and be able to review those.
So the listings that we had in Relay that ended up in here, in myTrans, have the other documents gone in there, or no?
Not unless you've put them in.
Okay.
Yeah, there is no correlation between Relay and here. What some of you have seen is some things that you have in KWLS are showing up as essentially as potential listing loops. But until you actually go in and add documents to it, those loops aren't activated.
We just delete them?
Well, what I'm asking is if what you have in Relay right now is only a listing file, I would encourage you, if at all possible, to go ahead and move those documents. Basically, what you need to do is open up your Relay file, save those documents to your computer, just like I showed you at the beginning, and then upload them to myTrans. Middle of January, I have to reduce the number of licenses, active licenses we have with Relay. I want to have as few active files going on Relay as I possibly can. Okay. So if you're already in escrow, we're probably going to be able to get those escrows closed before that time frame. But if all you have are listing documents in there, I want to encourage you. It means I'm going to have to review things twice. I understand that. But I'd like to get as many of those listing files, re-uploaded to myTransactions as we can.
We'll send you an email and just say we've taken this out of Relay and put it in my documents.
Yeah, and then once I've approved it in my documents, you can go in and just change the Relay file to inactive.
So we're okay with just deleting the stuff that shouldn't be in there?
Yeah.
Because closed files get added to mine.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Stuff I've already closed is just showing up in here.
Okay. Well, on the statuses, even though I changed things to close, they're still going to show up on yours you will need to archive those, and let me show you that. You want to, if you've got either a whole file or even a document, let's say that really doesn't apply, you can hit there, we can go to More Actions, and you can archive. What that does is it simply takes it off of your active screen. It doesn't erase anything. Nothing ever gets deleted from this program. But you can archive it and get it out of your visible screen by archiving. Okay. The same thing on your list, when you go to your list of listings. No, it's not the wrong one. Listing loops, and say up here, if I want to archive one of those, I can do the same thing. Okay, so once I've closed a file, you can go ahead and click on it and archive that file. Then it won't be showing up on your active screen when you open up the program. You can always go back up here and hit Archive Listing Loops, and it'll pull those back up for you.
Okay, done.
Okay? So let me show you the broker side for a moment. And at this point, I always say, if on your dashboard you've got a broker dashboard button, please tell me, because you shouldn't. That's exclusive. Come on. Come on. All right. So from the broker side, I pull up, a list of agents. This is where I put in my documents. But on the transaction side, your transactions, depending on how I sort them, at this point, this is showing up everything that's in the system. But when I'm looking at it, the more programs we get in here, the more files we get in here, the more I'm going to filter my active screen. And my goal is the ones I'm going to get priority are the ones that say broker review. Okay, so notice here my example highway is now at status broker review because I hit that button saying submit it for review. Okay, so the priority on my side are going to be things that were submitted that says a group of documents is ready for me to look at. Okay, so the broker reviews are going to get the priority. Right now I'm seeing pretty much everything as you put them in there, just so I'm kind of keep track of how many of you are using it and how many of you are forgetting to hit the submit for review button. If I see a complete file in there and a couple of days go by and it hasn't been submitted for review, I'm sending out some reminders of how to find that button. Okay, so the communication part of it is something we need to work on. The trade-off is you no longer have to send me an email, which most of you were forgetting to do anyway. Yeah, but you do still need to have submit for review that gives me the indication that it's ready for me to take a look at. Okay, so when I open it and review it, what I'm going to do is then I've got two options. I've got tags and I've got notes. Okay, I've got tags and notes on each transaction, and then within the transaction, for each file, I also have tags and notes. Okay, so if I open up here, I review that file, everything is cool, I'm going to hit tag, and I'm going to tag that file as approved. So next time you open up that listing, that blue approved is going to show up with that file that says I've been there, I've done that, nothing more needs to be done to that file. Let's say I find, okay, we have a signature missing, or we've got the wrong expiration date, which has been a common practice this last month or so. Okay, if I tag it as correction needed, if I do that, I will always add a note, and on the note we'll say, let's correct expiration date. When I do that, a number is going to show up in the sticky pad next to your file. So when you go into your transaction, if you see a note that says correction needed, you're going to click on the note, and then up here, click on the note, and it'll tell you exactly what needs to be done to that. Okay. And then for the overall, if there's corrections needed for the section that I'm reviewing, I'll mark it as correction needed. If the whole section is completed, then I'll change it either to approved L1, approved P1, approved P2, and that way you'll know that that whole section is done. One of the weaknesses in the program right now, we've asked them to fix, they don't give us any place in here yet to put in close of escrow date. So I do not have the ability to search by close of escrow date. That's been kind of my fail-safe, with Relay. Is by being able to do that, I can keep ahead of you even when you forget to tell me you've put documents in there. If I see something that's going to close in a couple of weeks, even if you've never communicated with me, I at least know I got to do something. Right now, we don't have that. What I'm going to do is, after I've reviewed your P1 section, I will put a tag on to indicate when the close of escrow is going to be. So at least I'm going to have a visual as I'm looking at these files, but I won't be able to search by that tag. So it's very important, again, that you communicate with me, as to when things are happening, and probably, let me know a week or so before closing if you have any concerns. If I haven't done anything to your file, we want to make sure that those get done. But all the communications will be done through the tags and the notes. The other final piece here is the status. After I've reviewed a file, then I will take it and I'll say return to agent. Okay, and you'll get a message that says, status has been changed. Okay, so at that point, you go back in, open that transaction, and you'll see whatever tags or notes I put on there. You'll know what to do with that. If I say corrections needed, once you correct that section, resubmit it for review until you get to the approved for that section.
So how do you, so it does like a version 2 basically?
No, you can't cover over and you can't erase. So what you'll typically do is add a new file saying corrected RLA or something like that. And then I'll go in and change status on both.
Okay.
Yeah. The version 2 thing with Relay is one of the pieces that's always driven me nuts. Because I have to dig deep to try to figure out, whether there's files in there that I can't see. So this is actually better, even though we may end up with more files coming in there. Okay, so the process fairly straightforward. It's just a matter, is make sure you create the proper loop, add everything by attachments, skip the pages that don't apply. Anything that has to do with adding files or forms, skip that. If you don't want to use it for e-signatures, you can skip the adding client sections. But again, any of those things that you skip, you can always go back and do them if you want to later. Like I say, adding clients in later is easy. Setting up a document for printing, easy. If you're using something like DocuSign or Digital Link, just save those executed documents and then upload the executed document to the program. And I'm guessing about 90% of you, that's the way you're going to use it. And that'll be just fine. Okay.
How do you edit the name of a file?
Edit the name of a file? Okay, let me jump back over here then.
TC put it in the smell of food.
Oh. That is a excellent question. Because they give us the option to edit individual documents within the file, but can I change the
name, the address.
All right, 5 brownie points to the person who comes up with the answer to that one. I will research that, Mary. I don't know the answer as to how to actually change the name of the loop. That seems like that should be a pretty easy thing to do, but I'm not seeing it right off.
Yeah. Do they have a help menu on? I see help up in the corner.
Yeah, but I don't want to waste video time trying to search through that. One of the things I've added in this packet that I gave you is the several pages from that guide that I told you is available there that just reviews how to add attachments to the file, and then my summary of the process as far as how to add files in and how to, when to submit them for review. And so that's just there as a quick, easy reference for you.
This, dopdf.com,
Mhm.
how do we have to have that before we can do anything? Because we can't use the relay, the.
Well, if you're using our printers here, there's going to scan them as PDFs. The only thing you would need the converter for is if you need to take forms that aren't in a PDF form and you need to convert them. An example would be the Excel version of the green sheet. You're going to want to save that. Once you've completed that, send it to Karina, you're going to want to save that as a PDF. Okay? Or you know, the final printed version that she gives you with your closing package, you can simply scan that, you know, in there. So the converter is only if, let's say I have an email trail that I really want to put into this program to keep some documents, there's a, you know, of a situation. I want to convert those emails to a PDF because everything that goes into this file has to be in PDF form. If, you know, if something comes to you as a Word document, let's say your client has written you or sent you an attachment as a Word document and you want to save that into this program for reference, you need to convert it to a PDF and then you can upload it. So that's where the DOPDF or the PDFill, or you know, if you have any of some of the other Adobe programs that'll do that for you, that's what those are for.
Steve, you can also create PDFs from your digital ink and your DocuSign. And you just asked me the question about whether you had to tag. If you don't want to tag, you can have it tagged by using digital ink or DocuSign through zip forms, and then when it's returned to you, and if you don't want your other people's signatures on it, you know, just send it to yourself, and then all you have to have is like a optional initial, and then don't initial it. It'll be a blank form, but you can save it that way as well. But it'll tag it for you if you want it to be tagged.
Also, if anyone has a Mac computer and you want to convert to a PDF, all you do is go File, Print, and then there's an option.
They've got it built into the Mac. Yeah, you see, and what Mike is talking about as far as having it pre-tagged on the digital, it's because DocuSign and Digital Ink have agreements with zip forms to use their interactive forms. If we had the interactive forms on dotloop, they would pre-tag and pre-tag those documents as to where signatures are needed because they would be part of that interactive form. So we would have that capability if we had the forms. But because we don't have the forms, then anything here, anyone that we want to use here, we would have to specifically tag each location ourselves. So that's another example of why it's probably better at the time being to stay with DocuSign or Digital Ink, simply for the convenience sake for that. If we ever do get the full package, then it'll certainly become a more user-friendly package for us.
And that also converts it to a PDF, Digital Ink or DocuSign.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming, and hopefully, you know, again, if you have questions about any of this, from your home page, go to Documents, Broker Documents, and then go to the bottom where it has my transaction information, and you'll be able to pull up again this user guide with my notes. And I didn't sign it, so you know, signatures will be extra cost, but all my notes will be in there to help you kind of guide through how to use that program. All right, and again, no new transactions in Relay from this point on. Anything new goes into my transactions. And I encourage you, I beg of you, move listings over to my transactions before the middle of January as well. All right, thanks guys.
Do you have any more handouts?
Yes, they're in the back. And then if each one of you will go ahead and fill out a tag, the drawing is coming up pretty soon for family reunion. So pass those around, everybody fill out a.
One more question. So, like for short sales, you know, how we're constantly, they're canceling and whatever, we have to upload everything.
Yeah, any executed documents.
Have to be uploaded.
But the advantage on this one is that those purchase documents will be in a separate offer loop. So if it does die, we can just simply archive that offer loop, and it'll bury it, and then you can do a new offer look for the new buyer.
But when you do the short sale, you're not opening escrow, so it's just the
Right.
executed contract.
Right, and on, like I say, on that one, you're gonna need to do just the executed contracts, shoot it to me before review, just so I know that it's there, and then we'll finish P1 after we get
If escrow
the escrow.
Okay. All right, perfect, thank you.